And this is not religious. This is not bogus. This is not something made up.
Was that a Freudian slip? Did you just conflate religion with being bogus? I guess we're in for a treat today, guys. So before we get into the video, I need to say some things. This video was a request from Fadeboss, and even though it's kinda long, thanks. Secondly, this channel finally has its first patron. So thank you. You know who you are, and your name will be in the credits. Oh, I have to make credits now. Huh. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this prophecy.
5 is the number of grace. 777, I think you know, triple completion. May mean the completion of the age of grace.
Oh, the age of grace is over? Awesome. I don't have to show you any mercy then.
I mean, if God is into numbers and if he likes patterns and prophetic things, which he evidently does, it's going to be the year 777, starting now. The year of the Messiah according to the Jews.
So if we go by your logic, 1,000 years ago, or at least from 2017, the Messiah should have come. Because if you're going to take the 5 off and just use the year 777, then the year 1017 is just as significant as the year 2017. You know, it's funny how all this numerology stuff sounds like bullshit when you put it into context.
Now, unfortunately, for the Jews who don't yet believe the New Testament and that the Messiah came the first time, they're going to be looking for the wrong Messiah.
Not unlike you, I'm sure.
They will momentarily put their faith and trust in a counterfeit Messiah. But we pray for them that the gospel will reach them. But they believe this coming year, this year that we're in, is the year for the Messiah to show himself. Revelation 12 says, now a great sign. Everyone say great sign.
You know, I commonly joke that Christianity is a cult, but when you're actually making your congregation repeat the things you say verbatim back to you, that's exactly what a cult does. The joke stops being funny when it's real.
We might say, no sign has been called great in the Bible. This is called great sign. Mega sign. We might say this is the greatest sign because no other celestial sign has been given more attention and more detail. We gloss over it, we read it very quickly. We're not going to do it today. Let me show you why it's very important, because the time may be very soon. Well, the time is definitely very soon for this to be fulfilled.
Except that every end times prophet in every time says that every time adjacent to them is the end times. But I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You might actually provide some evidence, so let's hear it.
Now a great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. This does not refer to a woman floating through the sky. The simplest, most literal interpretation of this is the constellation Virgo, which will have the sun at her head, the moon at her feet, and 12 stars, 9 from the constellation Leo, and a conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Venus on her head. That makes 12 stars on the 23rd of September, 2017. Remember that date, 23rd of September, 2017. Remember that date, 23rd to 24th. The date in the Hebrew calendar starts from nightfall of the 23rd to nightfall of the 24th.
Thousands of end times prophets across thousands of years have used constellations and planets as a method of dictating earthly events, from catastrophic, apocalyptic predictions to mundane horoscope entries, and each has failed every single time to predict anything of value to anyone across history. How is your metaphor, ripped out of an ancient holy text, going to prove to be any different?
Their days start from night, goes to day. Our day goes from day, ends at night, right? Because when you're Gentile and you don't know God, you start in the light and you head to darkness. But when you're the people of God, you start in the darkness and you head towards the day.
Again, you're just using allegory and metaphor, but I think this one is to try to convince your audience that you have anything worthwhile to say. Spoiler alert, you don't.
Make sense? Okay. Now, how rare is this? Well, this hasn't happened before in our lifetime. In fact, the last time it happened was 5,932 years ago, and that would be on our Gregorian calendar, the 5th of August, the year 3915 BC, roughly the time when Adam and Eve walked the earth.
Well, everyone knows that Adam and Eve can't have ever existed. Evolutionarily speaking, they would have caused a bottleneck of our DNA that would have caused us to be so inbred so as to be almost non-functional before we ever even got to the year we're currently in. Completely ignoring that, though, if we look at year dates, they're extremely arbitrary. Given that the Earth is well over 4 billion years old, this is a phenomenon that would have happened several thousand times in the lifetime of the Earth alone, and it wasn't any more significant any one of those times than it's going to be this time. All things considered, I would venture that that's not at all.
So this sign, the last time it appeared, seems to match when Adam and Eve were taught about how the woman would go into labor pain when she gives birth, and that the serpent would bruise her seed's heel, but her seed, the coming Messiah, would bruise his head. Remember that? Okay, we'll come back to that. But when that was being told, and he was also being told, God said that the stars and the sun and the moon are given for Moedim, for appointed times. When that was being told, there was a sign in the sky that looked like this, and it hasn't happened since. It's about to happen in less than 360 days.
Under normal circumstances, I would probably take the time to fact check whether or not this phenomenon has actually happened within the time frame that you're giving us. But considering that I know you're feeding us bullshit in every other front, whether or not this fact is true is completely irrelevant to whether or not your prophecy is going to come true.
So, let's map it out. You know that we've talked about the 4 blood moons plus the other 2 eclipses. All right, the 4 blood moons started on Passover, 15th of April, 2014. And 2 days before this great sign of the woman in the sky, clothed with the sun in her hair, the moon at her feet, garland of 12 stars by her head, right? 2 days before that is the Feast of Trumpets. Feast of Trumpets is, we just learned, prophetically, the next thing Jesus will fulfill. He fulfilled 4 feasts. The next feast, the 5th feast, he must fulfill. The next event should be the resurrection of the dead and the rapture of the saints. So if it were to happen, it should happen on the Feast of Trumpets. Next Feast of Trumpets will start, there's a 2-day leeway, 20 to 22nd of September. If you count those 2 dates, the distance between those 2 dates, anyone want to guess the distance between those 2 dates? From the first lunar eclipse, blood moon, to the Feast of Trumpets next year, 2017, there are, you know this number, Isaac Newton cared about it, lots of other godly people tried to calculate it, 1,260 days.
Yeah, 1,260 days is talked about in the book of Revelation. You've got that right. But you could have literally put any dates there and plugged any amount of significant events together to get those numbers. You could have literally done anything you wanted to somehow mathematically cause it to come up to 1,260 days. This is why numerology is bullshit. It's not very hard. If I said that the first day started a month prior to your prediction, all I would have to do would be to say the last day happens a month prior to your prediction, and I will get the exact same number of days. The numbers are completely arbitrary in both circumstances.
This was pre-planned when God put the stars into orbit. This was pre-planned so that it would spell out 1,260 days, a number we've seen many times. Revelation 12, a woman fled into the wilderness where God had prepared a place to care for her for 1,260 days. And again, I think those would be repetitive.
You are most certainly right that this video is getting very repetitive. On that note, I'm gonna have to split this video into multiple parts. There's a whole lot of shit to unpack here, and I can't cram it all into one video. Otherwise, we'd be here for hours. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of me tackling this absurdly long video presentation. Please like and subscribe if you like my content, and if you think my videos are neat, please send them to your friends. See what they think. Also, remember to hit the bell icon to be notified when part 2 is out, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Apparently I have a Twitter now. I've avoided it for years, but there's a link to that in the description below now.